Dr. Tracey Wilen is a prominent thought expert, a leader in the field. She's worked for big companies like Cisco and Apple and others. She's appeared on CNN and Fox News and this little teeny tiny program here to talk about technologies and careers and so much more. She joins us today to talk about that. Good morning. How are you, Doctor?
Oh, good morning and Happy New Year.
Hey, thanks for coming on and joining us. Really, as always, appreciate it. Security, technology, micropreneurs, we got all different kinds of things to talk about, and it's good stuff.
Yeah, so every year what I do in December, January is publish predictions on where I think the newest job creation can be. And it's in areas that people may not be naturally thinking about. It may not even be on the job boards yet.
Right.
But I want people to get an edge. And so for 2016, I came up with 5 areas that people should think about and look at.
5 different areas. Well, and I'm kind of interested, especially in this idea. Let's start off with the micropreneurs. What is a micropreneurs or a micro business?
Sure. So let's first, a lot of people immediately think that they have to work for a large company.
Right.
And the reality is that over half of the U.S. is actually all about small businesses. And small businesses are defined, some definitions are 500 or less employees, and some definitions are 100 or less employees. A micropreneur is actually 1 or 2 people. A micro business is really under 5 people running a business. This is the wave of the future. I think a lot of people automatically assume that if you're contracting or freelancing or starting a business or in your home-based business, that you're really waiting to find a better job. But The reality is our millennials are letting us know they don't want to be on this corporate treadmill, and micropreneurship is really a new backbone in the United States.
So being able to do it, and like you said, I saw some numbers that said the small companies make up something like 70+% of the jobs in America. I mean, it's huge. And by small companies, I mean companies under like 10 people.
It is, and I think if you talk, if you look at the Kaufman Institute and a lot of the research that they publish on entrepreneurship, and you talk to their economists, they advise young people this is where the growth is. I mean, let's face it, I remember when Google was only 2 people, right? Sergey Brin and Larry Page.
Right.
And then it grew into an enormous company in Silicon Valley and globally hiring a lot of people. But a lot of businesses start off with 1 or 2 people. And I think you have to remember that this is where the growth is. So, if you think about getting into some of these companies when they're just very small, the growth is tremendous.
And I've seen that. I mean, I've known people that for years have had a small bit, and they've been very successful at it, and I think very happy. That's the other thing, because you don't have to deal with the corporate culture. If you don't like the corporate culture, talk to the guy in the mirror. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I actually talk to a lot of entrepreneurs or people who just have their own businesses, and the secret is this is where your millionaires really are,
right?
Because they're not confined. They're not confined by the corporate parameters, and it can be anything really from owning a business to starting a business to developing a business on digital platforms to even franchising a business. And I think that this is, potential job creation. This is the wave of the future. And this is what I think our younger generation is probably going to pursue increasingly because they are technical.
Right.
And they understand, the technologies and being able to work from remote locations. Now,
when we talk about technologies, a lot of times we automatically default to the younger generations, millennials, et cetera. But seniors are also a bigger part of America than ever before.
Well, I do want to talk about that because I think this is an opportunity for all ages, whether you're technical or not, but in both categories. We are having a senior moment in North America. 1 in 3 Americans are age 50 and older. Globally, it's aging is big business. It's a $7.1 trillion business, which means that there's jobs there, whether it's in supporting ourselves as we get older with services, or where we choose to live, or how we stay well, or where we plan, how to use our time. There's a lot of businesses here, and it isn't age, it's age actually appropriate. I see people moving into aging and senior sensation, jobs from their 20s all the way through their 70s.
And we see that, and of course, as the baby boomers continue to age out, they're going to. I mean, that market. I mean, as far as markets and jobs and kind of demand goes, is just going to increase.
Yes, if you think about it, just something about your choices as you get older. Are you going to live at home? That means you're going to have to probably maybe retrofit your home. You may want to bring in more services, on-demand services, sharing services. This is where, the growth happens with the Ubers and the Airbnb. Maybe you want to bring in landscaping services. Maybe you want to have home helpers in the form of robotics, which is a big high-growth area.
Right.
And so just the choices of where you decide to live is creating jobs. If it's not in the home and you decide to go to an adult community, well, these are like very large resorts and actually high occupancy rates and long waiting lists. This creates jobs, whether it's in the residential area, in the hospitality area, in the landscaping area. I mean, there's so many opportunities just because we're getting older.
We're talking with Dr. Tracey Wilen about tech trends that she sees, kind of predicting where things are going to be going. Security is always a great bet as we continue to depend more on technology. We become less and less secure, especially as we become familiar and kind of content with it. We get a little more slack and lackadaisical, but security is always a great bet, right?
Security, sadly, is a safe bet, and we're entering into different kinds of needs in security that we have not experienced before in our history. Counterterrorism, cybersecurity, and there always will be a need for increased physical security and protection. A lot of this requires technology backgrounds, but a lot of it also does not. I mean, cybersecurity alone is growing 12 times faster than the overall market. And you need people, ethical hackers, but you also, there's a lot of firms that are developing to protect networks, to protect data.
Right.
And all of these firms have jobs, whether it's the technical side, marketing side, sales, customer service. And so, there's job creation there. You may not see it on the job boards, but if you reach out and look, there's a lot published there.
And, of course, as we move forward, you mentioned robotics and some other things. Artificial technology and other kind of these trending technology are also going to be, we've talked about it, the way of the future.
Yes, and I think it's important for people to realize that every year, technology is always going to be the high growth area for jobs. But every year you're going to see new emerging technologies. And I encourage people to grab onto these because if you can get in at the early stages, you could grow with these platforms, even if you're not technical. So, for example, I got in on the networking rage, of years ago.
Right.
Not being a technical person, but I actually rode that wave with Cisco. So the three that I see for this year is artificial intelligence is definitely large investments going into it. The immersive technologies, and you and I have talked about augmented virtual reality and Twitch and the whole growth of esports. And then also the drones and automation. I mean, that's what the Consumer Electronics Show was all about this year. It's drones, autonomous cars. So all of these areas, yes, they're technical, and you're going to need engineering capabilities, but also you need people in marketing, sales, customer service, tech support. So these are industries now that will offer new job creation for people.
Dr. Tracey Wilen, as always, it's a pleasure to talk to you. It's interesting to see where things are going, and times they are changing faster than ever. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.